Ion has been a good pickup. He replaced Moringa on the roster. He's provided a little bit more flexibility. It looks like maybe a bit more fragging potential as well.
We'll see Moringa later on. He's playing for Team Liquid now. For people that aren't really keeping up with the whole scene, I know some of the transfers might get a bit hazy, and over the next couple of weeks, I think we'll all get used to it. But
from the Six Invitational to here, Moringa has played on 3 teams. He was playing on FaZe Clan at the Six Invitational, then he went to Black Dragons, and now he's on Liquid. And with our map veto system in front of you, Kafe Dostoevsky is going to show itself here in Latin America. And it's a map that hasn't really been played by a lot of regions that aren't called Europe.
I think we've had 7 Kafe, including this, 7 Kafe Dostoevsky so far. It's 6 or 7.
Right.
But I'm sure we're close to that number. So
right.
We're getting pretty darn close to a set metagame on Kafe. You give it a couple of weeks. It really, when it comes to a new map, you have to give it a tournament. So I think the real proving grounds for Kafe and its new fashion is going to be DreamHack Minor next, well, not this weekend, the one after in 10 days.
Valencia.
So DreamHack Valencia, I will be there being cooked in the sun. But we get to see FaZe Clan there as well. And here they are. 62% of you think that they're going to win. And honestly, I tend to agree. You said FaZe Clan is definitely is the strongest team right now present in Latin America, international play and in local play. I think BR6 shows it, Pro League shows it, everything really puts it up on the table. Sure, majors here and there, 6 Invitationals, kind of been a switch between them, NIP, and Team Liquid.
Right.
Otherwise, they've definitely been a strong contender, and definitely the strongest international team that Latin America is fielding currently.
I mean, when you look at the majors that we have, both the 6 Invitational and the 6 Major that happens in the summer that's coming up in Raleigh, which for the record, FaZe Clan have already punched their ticket for. They will be there in Raleigh. If you really look at it, like, there's so many good teams that play at the majors that there's just not enough spots to make it into the quarterfinals. You know,
you'd like everyone to be in the quarters on the big stage, but you can't.
You get teams like Rogue that failed to make it at the 6 Invitational. You've got NIP and FaZe that failed to make it. Teams like Penta that failed to make it. You know, Cloud9, who were at the time Mantis FPS, they failed to make it. And it's like you've got really talented, strong teams that just aren't able to make it out of those group stages just simply due to the fact that there's not enough slots for all of the teams that are very, very close in terms of skill.
Yeah, and when you're fighting against, at a major specifically, the best teams in the world representing every single region, being just a tiny bit under the weather or not really so focused that day or during that match, that means that you're going to lose the game and you're not going to be able to make it to the big stage at least. Now, a good thing is that major events have a massive prize pool.
Even for teams that fail to make it to the quarters, they make good money.
It's a decent chunk of cash, especially if you're in Pro League as well. You're having fun, let's say that. But when you're at a high competitive level, you're not just looking to make it to the event. You're looking to break to the top. And breaking the top every round, every second, that's really what's going to matter. And I think this conversation is going to start to ramp up in the next few weeks as we get closer and closer to the Raleigh Major, because it's literally in the middle of August. And
it's
right
under
now,
2 months away.
It's like it's a month and a half.
Yeah.
In a month and a half, we'll be in Raleigh. So it's crazy to think that we will be there. We also have DreamHack Minor next week. We've had the Vegas Minor 2 weeks ago. There's so many tournaments now for a lot of international teams to attend, and with the bump in prize pool for all these tournaments, specifically the minors, which I think were flawed in the ways that they were before, but now with the extra prize pool, it motivates so many more teams to come in. We've seen Latin America participating, and now we even have 2 teams from APAC attending DreamHack Valencia. I mean, we have Fathers back, and we also have Cloud9, formerly known as Mantis FPS. It's pretty darn huge. But that all aside, I know we're hyping up so many things. There's so much to kind of ingest. But Team 1 that we saw in the previous matchup, as well as FaZe Clan, will both be playing next week.
There's some interesting teams that are actually going to DreamHack Valencia because some have already qualified. So you look at it, and both Lestream and FaZe Clan will be in Raleigh. But then you've got Chaos, Cloud9, Father's Back, Na'Vi, Team 1, Penta, Rec, Rogue, TSM, and Vitality all fighting for that coveted spot because the winner of DreamHack Valencia gets a spot to go to Raleigh. The rest will be done through qualifiers, as we've already got all the other teams that have qualified from G2 winning the 6 Invitational to the 8 teams in Milan. And then Team Secret, surprising, I think, an awful lot of people.
Yep.
Because of the fact that they won the Vegas Minor. Now, let's turn our attention towards this matchup between NiP and FaZe Clan.
Thatcher ban again.
It's FaZe Clan banning Capitao and Miro, with Thatcher and Echo coming out from Ninjas in Pyjamas and doing FaZe a favor, as Echo is usually banned by FaZe.
Yeah, it pretty much... Even though NIP actually have a pretty good Echo and Pino, even Pino and Julio, they both can actually play the operator very, very effectively. But it comes down to the map specifically. And in this case, because we haven't really gotten to explore it in Latin America, we will also have to all hold our hands, hold one another's hands, and sing Kumbaya as we kind of start to learn how Latin America will play its way around Kafe Dostoyevsky, our new and improved version that I think everybody's had a pretty general positive attitude towards, even myself and my normal standard day-to-day playing. It's a ton more fun, more flexible than we've ever had this map be. Excellent job done. I can't wait for the other maps that will be done by the end of this year. But there's a lot more flexibility. The double balconies that you see between bar and the cigar, it just has given so much flexibility for both attackers and defenders. On this top bar site, we've seen a lot of Maestros, for example, even playing on the second floor, and from there trying to hold on to the second hatch that has now been added, not just the one that was previously available, onto the red stairs. And we will walk you through everything because we realize the map has not really been played much, and really not much in Latin America in general. I think this is the first time that it gets played in Latin America as well, so for some people might not be familiar with it if you only keep up with this region.
I didn't cast both Latin America matches last week, so I'd have to go back and look at the exact maps that they were a part of. But
there was one Kafe, FaZe Liquid, actually. So this is...
Yeah, I was going to say, FaZe, it was a 7-5 victory.
This is the third time. So there was a game every single week. Yeah, we didn't get to see much of it last week because INTZ Immortals was a 7-0, and it kind of was a wash-up. But now we get to see it as well between 2 other big teams, not just the FaZe Liquid that we saw on week number 1, or play-day number 1 at this point. We don't call them weeks anymore. Mozzie, being the really newest addition to NIP, has also been doing pretty darn impressively, I have to say. Similar to Pino when he joined the team.
I mean, I think Pino took a little bit to find his footing. I think when you looked at the 6 Invitational, Pino was not exactly living up to what they'd expected. And Mozzie came in, and yes, I think that he has performed tremendously well, given the expectations that I think fell on his shoulders, and especially with a team as storied as NiP, who have struggled to find the same success over the last year that they found previously. So, what are you going to see out of this team this time? Well, you had Mozzie and Pino show up really big in the previous matchups, and they're going to need to have a big game this time around as well.
Julio trying to open things up here with the breaching charge down below. It'll give you a lot of space to deal with your opponents on the opposite end of the reinforcement, but there's no ability here to just destroy the top side of the reinforcement, as you see, for example, on the clubhouse entry from the balcony. So when you're attacking cash, so that is definitely out of play. Cameraman, I'm not sure if he spotted the foot in the back, but Psycho actually maneuvers himself very close up and finds 2 free kills. Psycho, massive bit of play there. Downs Cameraman and Astro. Mav, though, will find Pino, but still advantage for the Ninjas.
A very fitting name for the way that Psycho just played that one out, and he's always dangerous when he's on the board, along with Kamikaze. He'll find a third for his trouble on Ion, and he might have clear access. 4 kills for Psycho. Where's Mav? Playing and finding the last kill inside a freezer. Psycho will go hunting, but he's deprived of the ace from Kamikaze, and Ninjas in Pyjamas just run over FaZe in that very first round. As they say, we don't care about you getting every single kill. We're more focused on the round. And NiP will start things off with a bang.
Well, speaking of bang, Parker, even though we don't call you Interrobang anymore and you don't call yourself that.
That is correct.
Still no ace to be casted. It was taken away from both you and Psycho.
I casted Astro's ace last week.
Not bad. Not bad.
That joke needs to die.
Yes.
Because I've casted actually a number of aces.
Yes.
There's just like there's like a couple games where Kix was like, "Oh, you don't get to cast aces anymore," and it was like just because Kix casted them.
Yeah, but what Kix says is usually gospel, so I continue to live up to that.
All I know is that I've casted
Multiple aces. Yes.
Cast aces, at least I can remember, from Nyx, Astro, Para, Rampy.
Okay, show off over here. I've casted aces from LATAM and aces from Fnatic, which is great.
Me too, man.
I don't cast anymore. I'm only a host, so
Me too.
retired. So that said, FaZe Clan got absolutely demolished in the very first round, and there's one reason why. Not just Psycho himself, but the fact that he was able to walk through the hallway unimpeded. That shouldn't happen. So you think of it as like, well, now we understand what our problem is. Let's fix it. So let's actually have someone in the hallway. I know it's a revolutionary idea now. But if we have that, then maybe we won't have that same problem happen to us. So let's play the same site, and we'll see what we can do with that. It works. So you see NIP going all the way up to the top. You got the 2 hatches that you can use. You also have the skylight. Isn't as strong as before, of course, because you have the walls that block the line of sight into the objective itself, which is pretty darn good. But you'll see the COD sitting in the back here in the fridge/freezer, and FaZe Clan really spreading around the top floor. Now, they had Astro downstairs in the bakery, and I'm not sure if he's still there. Yeah, he is still there. So just in case he's able to catch somebody off or any drones. Psycho's already entered from the red stairs hatch. Set up his Claymore. The Thermite wasting no time to open up the hole into Piano. Odd that FaZe choose to not put anyone in Piano. They put all of their utility and players on the site itself.
They're just very worried about the tools that are being brought from NIP to push into Piano. The Zofia in particular, that's in the hands of Psycho. You saw he just waltzed right in and got the big 4K last round. He didn't even really need to expend any of the utility that comes through the lifeline. He's going to position himself over by the hallway leading to the top of White Stairs, and there's a body from FaZe that's over by the White Stairs. It's Cameraman. He's going to be positioned and hunkered down. He's waiting to tempt any possible fight. He's also got a C4 that could potentially reach all the way over to the bathroom. Additionally, Astro's moved down, is sitting over by Brown Stairs by the reading door, and he'll watch the drop that might come out through the second hatch, as newly added, just near Red Stairs. The second exothermic charge is going to go off here, and Julio is waiting very patiently to see if somebody's going to emerge from the bar back storage room. In this case, it's Mav who's playing in there. And Mav is essentially trapped. His cross is going to be covered, and unless NIP misses their shots, the Valkyrie doesn't get out of there alive. The good news is that for FaZe, they have one of those black eye cameras, but is exactly what I said might end up happening. Psycho moves on in, and all the magic from round number 1 falls by the wayside. Nav takes him down, and FaZe will start things off hot. 30 seconds to go, and an Ion now quarterbacking the play just behind the deployable shield, trying to toss out his toxic canisters. A second kill for FaZe will come out, and down goes Kamikaze. But Mozzie with the refrag. Looking for another one over on White Stairs will be Astro to take out Mozzie, and the rest of NIP will all head towards the White Stairs as well. Unifells, Julio, and Pino in a 1v4. His position given away as he does some damage just to the backs of Astro, but Mav pushes on up, pulls out the Deagle, and he'll sit Pino down. It's 1 round for both teams as FaZe strike accordingly and even things up.
Very well done by FaZe. Big problem for NIP. They had the same strategy as they did before. What's the one big unfortunate thing that happened? You go into the freezer.
You missed his shots.
You missed the shot. Now the whole jig is up, and smoke's just being thrown into the freezer. Smoke in the back is doing work. There's no need for him to save up his canisters for any other position. And once all of that is locked down, the Maestro can just sit pretty. The Valkyrie is going to sit inside the freezer or walk away. You have so much flexibility left. And because you dropped the diffuser in the middle of the freezer, because I believe the Zofia was carrying it as she died in there, your whole strategy has to revolve around either frags or Hail Mary to try and recover the diffuser, which in the end they really could not do. So, at a 1-1, FaZe are able to win the very second round, which means they have to go off the site. Now, we haven't really seen anybody go for the mining and dining side anymore, and it's mostly been the play in dining and in reading, a site that, or a position where even if you are defending mining, you need to have some sort of control of reading. And in this case, you will have to have it regardless. So you can just do away with the old strategies of running a Mira in mining or by the train and just sitting in there, hunkering down for the majority of the rounds. It really has been the more popular site alongside the bar itself. A lot of teams have been trying the kitchen, but it's been very hit or miss there. For the defense specifically.
Now we look towards the second site that's going to be defended from FaZe Clan, and there's still no real consensus as to what is the best for teams. And well, what's best for Julio is apparently having the day off. But Psycho is there to gun down Mav as the Valkyrie had to go for the Marathon Mile over by the reading doorway, and the spawn peak from FaZe will fetch the Jackal. That's the only set of smokes that Nip had, as well as a particularly annoying operator that can get under the skin of any of the defenders. As I was saying before my train of thought was so rudely interrupted by that run out at the start from Mav, there is no true consensus as to what the second site is here on Kafe, at least not yet. A lot of teams juggle between both kitchen and the reading and the fireplace site, which a lot of people call the dining hall. So you have mining and dining. In this case, you've got reading and dining. And it's the reading site where FaZe will go. This was a newer addition after the remodel of Kafe. Psycho will sprint on in, find the kill onto Yuna, and then immediately get out. That's C4 down in the Valkyrie, and then the Maestro also being put to rest, meaning that a lot of your plant denial and your closing operators are out of action. Now, if Cameraman is a C4, he can fulfill that goal that was being hopefully put in by a Valkyrie, and you've also got smoke too, so it's not dire straits for FaZe, at least for the time being, but 90 seconds, and all you managed to do is take out a single set of smokes from Nip. You gotta think it favors the Ninjas at the moment.
And the problem, if you're NIP, you already know that FaZe will also be playing on the top floor. In this case, they have 2 players down there, and there's also angles that can be played against you if you want to go and plant on the site. A beautiful flick from Astro here, at least changing his aim onto Kamikaze, as well as Ion. They'll find 2 headshots of their own, and suddenly NIP lose all semblance of control over the round. Psycho and Pino are the last 2 alive, and Pino actually comes on in, demolishes Astro in the 1v1 fight with the SMG-11. Psycho turning around to the bottom floor here is now you know that the top is clear, and the last 2, both the smoke and the mute of Ion and Cameraman, will have to defend this. What's the big thing for NIP? They have all the stuns available on Zofia. 2 of them in this case, of course. He's right there. Oh no! The drop! Ion turns around, he finds the kill. Pino's now on his own. The diffuser is down on the floor, right by Psycho. There's 22 seconds left. There's not much here, and the SMG-11 has been pulled out and reloaded. You have to watch for also angles right by the stairs. 13 left. Psycho's actually going to pick himself back up, as of course he's playing on the Zofia. He'll find the headshot. Beautifully done from Pino. The Nitro Cell will connect from Cameraman. Wise from Pino to fall back and uses LED5. Pretty much full magazine, turns in and finds Cameraman. NIP salvage the round. They pick it back up. Pino, man.
And how do they win that? Because of Withstand.
Yeah.
Zofia, with her unique ability that only she has, she withstood, was able to get the diffuser down, put the pressure on FaZe to push on up, and then you find a position where, well, Psycho gets 1 kill, gets taken down, Pino just better at the last second. And because you go from what should have essentially been a 1v2 into a 2v2 with diffuser down, you got to be glad that it was Psycho who got down for Nip.
Yeah, and Pino really did save the round. Getting the kill on the Jaeger on the top floor was important to relieve the pressure on himself and the Zofia to be able to actually get on the site themselves. Zofia gets downed. The focus is on Pino. But in this case, the Zofia can withstand, as you mentioned. It's something that, if people don't know, is a very Polish thing, by the way. It's out there. It's a common knowledge. He's able to pick himself back up, put the diffuser down, die with the Nitro Cell, but at that point, his job had been accomplished, even though the utility was not used. And Pino, just intelligent, gets the 3K at the end of the round. He's able to do so much work for him and for the team. It was salvaged. That's a very salvaged round. I wouldn't say that it's conclusive for anything. This is why you see FaZe Clan going back to the same site here on reading and on dining, because now they might have an idea of how to fix the problem that they just encountered.
Teams do this from time to time, right? You shore up your weaknesses. You say this when you take the time to pause and reflect and talk with your team. Even though Ion's setup looks to be very similar to what we've seen before, running very close to losing all of the shotgun ammunition that he has. He only has 14 bullets left, or well, I guess with a shotgun it's not quite a bullet. 14 buckshots, as you could call it. We've also positioned Astro off-site. He's going to sit upstairs, and you were, no, I wouldn't say critical, but you drew attention to the fact that there wasn't much piano control from FaZe previously. And well, now they're not going to ignore that this time, though it is a different site. Your first instance of Lion is going to come out. Keep in mind that there is a mute on the board, so if you're standing on one of those jammers, then your position's not going to be given away. It's going to give more power to cameraman and his operator. But Mozzie is in. He's inside a train, watching the fireplace, and if there's nobody from FaZe who's positioned to watch that push from the attackers, then they can just waltz right in. Or in Mozzie's case, sprint right in. He was able to take up a lot of ground with that first EOD that came out from the Lion. There's still 2 remaining, so you'll have another opportunity or 2, should the Lion not die earlier from Julio, to be able to continuously move towards your goal of eliminating all of FaZe or just simply go for the plant. Given the fact that Nip's ability to get a plant down seemed like an afterthought, as it was Psycho who was felled and picked up and went for the plant, I would imagine that we're going to probably just see a brawl here, and it'll come out as the second EOD goes. Psycho will edge ever closer to the site. He's going to be confronted with some barbed wire on white stairs, looking to see if there's anybody from FaZe around the corner. He'll give his position away, but for the time being, there's still a calm before the storm.
Very calm, but Psycho, this is the moment where he gives himself away, and what a shot from Ion. Turns around, finds the kill. Pino, the refrag though, onto Yuna, eliminates the Maestro just playing on that top floor. Now you won't have to worry about at least one part of the angles. The last E1D will be used by the line of Julio, but there's still control on the top stairs. As I say that though, cameraman will be felled, so Pino in control, and he finally loses the gunfight against Astro, who's now down to 50% HP. The entirety of the wall has been opened up here by FaZe, but the smoke coming in a bit too late. Julio will find 1 kill on Astro, and Ion will take away Kamikaze, but it's already done. The job is very much done for NIP. Mav and Ion are last 2 alive, and there's a lot of flashbangs still remaining with 1 gas canister left for Ion. Mav has already used up his Nitro Cell to get 1 player out. The Ash is slowly peeking against him. Mozzie is just playing with him at this point, but Ion comes in from the back, and Mav as well to help him from behind. FaZe for the retake, and the perfect timing here. They'll find the round and put 2 and 2 on the board.
Prior to FaZe's retake, I was going to make a comment about the fact that FaZe wasn't really holding down any part of the site underneath the red hatch, underneath the cigar balcony, over by the engine room, over by mining, over by dining. And it was mostly upstairs with Yuna playing an angle to look down into mining, and the rest of the team somewhere over by reading or pillars, etc. And because of this, Nip knew they had a line of sight directly towards fireplace. And they opened up the wall on the debris, the plant goes down, and FaZe have to rotate. They know they can't take the fight dead on because of the positioning that Nip has, because of the fact that Nip is going to have the advantage of 1 ACOG. There was an R4C on the Ash, but the Thermite had an ACOG and would have the advantage of sight, ability to see from a greater distance away. So what does FaZe do? A little bit of a distraction, and then they rotate quite well. And nobody from Nip, whether there's no late droning, whether there was no flank drone, whether they just simply weren't aware of the way that FaZe was playing it, or maybe FaZe were just better and quick lost the punch. FaZe retake in really the only way that they had access to, which is maneuver through reading, go over towards the dining area, go in through mining, and then move towards the train section in the middle. And once again, FaZe read it perfectly, and with the rate we're going right now, there's going to be a couple different takes that we see from Nip that will work and then immediately answered from FaZe, which means that it's very likely going to be a draw because what happens right now is Nip wins a round, FaZe fixes their mistakes, and wins the round after that. Back and forth. Back and forth. But now we're on Cocktail, and it was won the last time by by FaZe Clan. So Ninjas in Pyjamas, who won it the very first time, will have to try to do something differently. And I would imagine that we're going to see a different setup here from FaZe Clan, ever so slightly.
Astro this time at least playing downstairs, so that's really the big difference so far we've seen. A lot of times you require a lot of presence on the white stairs and even a big hold on the bar balcony. These are really powerful positions for you to use. It's not usual to see anybody contesting the red stairs because you know there's a claymore, you know you need to use utility, there's maybe somebody watching in there. So it's usually a position that you're not really going to be contesting until way later in the round for a potential retake that we so far have not seen. NIP will come in and at the minute 50 mark will open up the wall, rotation from red stairs into piano. Julius just watching the hallway. Nobody so far has peeked around it, but you see up onto the piece of woodwork here, and it's Astro, and he's got cameraman as well in support. I want to say oddly enough using the AUG, but again, it's between the TCSG and the AUG. Up to you depending on what you want to play. The TCSG definitely gives you a lot more flexibility than what you'd think, but gunfights, if they're hectic, the AUG is definitely there to finish off opponents, even with its low rate of fire and overall damage. So, Kamikaze with still one exothermic charge. If this is used the same way as we saw NIP use it before, it should be an opening into the freezer. But there's already an angle that was opened up by FaZe here to hold on against any assaults that come from there. So I wonder if NIP are not setting themselves up for a similar problem that they had in only a few rounds before. Mozzie walks on up and loses the cameraman. Now the flank is wide open.
Just waiting for them to dare and push on into the back bar storage here. That's Pino now watching the angle, and a bit of a misstep from Nip to not have that information be droned out to them, or if they did, to not be able to do much with it. Psycho's going to do the exact same thing he's done many times, and find two. Look towards the red stairs. Hello, is there a third? But no, all quiet on the western front so far from Nip outside of Psycho's play. He knows he's going to have to continue to push on over towards Cocktail, where two more members of FaZe will wait for the time being, and they will have to contest with one of the hottest hands, and Mav has so far been the kryptonite to Psycho. He'll have to continue onwards now as he tosses out a C4. He'll find a target, and it's all FaZe, all dominating the kill feed, even though Psycho tries to will his team to life. FaZe finally winning more than one round in a row, and a great showing from Mav in particular to put his team up. And their very first lead of this game comes with their very final defense now.
NIP tried to push in this whole time. There was one attempt to try and put the diffuser down, but it was a bit off. Drone information was not really used correctly, and you heard for the Maestro rattling fire in from the side lounge into the freezer that there was somebody coming into the freezer. At that point, you kind of have to be surprised and at least have some questions as to the motivation of that assault from the freezer. Because you cornered yourself once before. You know, this time it's a nitro cell. It's kind of, it doesn't really make it any better. I'd rather take smoke than nitro cell any day of the week, to be honest. But there wasn't much time there at the end, and there was just no way to capitalize on the huge gap that Psycho was able to give his teammates. And I want to highlight something. Psycho got the kills. He never used his stun grenades on the Zofia so far.
I mean, we haven't seen him use them, I think, any round.
This entire game.
He is a walking gun at this point.
Yes, and you're like, sure, great fragger. Congratulations. Maybe if you used those and you stunned your opponents, the round would have been a bit different. At least you would have known where they were.
I mean, he was playing a pixel angle against Mav as well. Difficult to hit with the MPX, and while it's not going to do a lot of damage to most of the body, if you hit the head, it doesn't matter what gun it is, right? The MPX is going to come away the winner in that instance, and Mav is not somebody who typically misses his shots, let's be honest. Especially after the role changes that we've seen of FaZe over the last year, losing Gohan and then Mav moving towards more of a fragging role alongside Cameraman to work in conjunction with Astro has allowed both Cameraman and Mav to shine in different circumstances. Through this matchup, Cameraman, while being as aggressive as he has been alongside Astro, it's really been Mav who's been the one to take the fights and simply win them out. Now, very final defense, and it'll be a kitchen defense for FaZe down below. A site that has seen its popularity continue to rise after the retake, and Astro is going to take a fight now with Mozzie above. Mozzie pulling the goo mine out. He's slowed down for the time being inside a cigar, and Astro gets pinched with Psycho there. We'll now move towards the rest of White Stairs. Psycho has just made an office on this part of the map, and nobody has been able to tell him otherwise. But one key point, I guess, of the defense here of FaZe's spear, which is Astro up top in the dock, and all that sustain is gone. We're getting close to the halfway mark on this round, and while the third floor is in hand for Ninjas in Pyjamas, they'll need to continue to trudge down to the second floor, where Psycho, as fearless as he ever is, hands over towards pillars and then can maneuver towards the brown stairs.
Mozzie's still holding on to red stairs, unsure where his opponents will be coming from, and even if they will be, just make sure that it's one less avenue and lane that can be used against them. Psycho will take a bit of damage from the goo mine here coming down the brown stairs. Mozzie continues to draw on down. The Jaeger has been spotted, and Mozzie's just watching the stairs himself, but nobody coming around there. Psycho finally will listen to the reason and use both of his bits of stuns on the lifeline to check for anybody in the bottom bar, and there's nobody in the back. Cameraman in a small bakery will rotate on out and try to use a better angle for himself. Grenade around the corner and caught by the ADS too now. Caught from Peanut.
So Thatcher could have possibly made a difference there, but of course he was banned out, and I think that's part of why it would happen. That was Nip who banned him, so FaZe taking advantage of the operator ban in this instance. The Jackal that had been felled earlier on in many rounds, Julio will continue to do some damage now, as his footprints will try to keep the remaining members of defense at bay. Cameraman will get the better of Mozzie, and Psycho now pushing on in, looking to try and contest against Cameraman, and he makes easy work of him, finish him off, losing half his HP in the process. But not a lot of time to work with for Ninjas in Pyjamas, as another kill will come onto the board, this time onto Yuna. 10 seconds to go. Mav and Ion will have to be the heroes for FaZe, looking to emerge from this half at a 4-2. But down goes Ion. It's all up to Mav. He'll find one. He'll have to hide for the time being. 3 seconds. Will he be pushed from the back? Will he be pushed from the front? Where is he? Mav looks to take down Julio. He'll win it. Kamikaze prone and trying to get the diffuser off, but Pino with the SMG-11 out will send us towards a tie. And FaZe cannot stick the landing off of an almost graceful recovery from Mav in the dying moments of round number 6. Diffuser doesn't even get finished, as Nip come back, and it's 3-3, switching sides, giving Nip their defensive rounds to look forward to.
I think we're heading closer and closer towards that tie you were talking about. It was a very interesting round, to say the least. All the time in the world there for the setup. Mav actually was so close to clutching that round. It's insane. You're like, okay, there's 5 seconds. He needs to plant right now. And at the 1 second mark, the Thermite turns around and starts setting the diffuser down in the second half of the kitchen. It's a safe position. There's no way to really deal with him at that point. And Mav comes in, T5, downs, kills one player. Unfortunately, the SMG at that range was so little HP that was left on him. He's not going to be able to do too much. And at the half, we sit at an even 3-3. Both teams have had dominant, extremely dominant rounds of their own. So I think so far it's not that easy to call the game and how it will be. And that really has been the approach for this evening. Even on our first matchup, 4-2 at the half, we're not expecting it to come back for a 7-5 victory. So here, it very much is up in the air. There's a reason why both of these games could have been our matches of the day. Each one of them holds a distinct storyline, and between NIP and FaZe, it's a historic rivalry between them as well. Not just in esports in general, but specifically in Siege and in Latin America. And they're both big contenders for the finals, qualifying to the finals in Nagoya in Japan. Big problem. NIP have not been able to qualify any time so far. They've always been kind of there, but too close, not close enough.
I mean, they won the qualifier for the Six Invitational as well as the Paris Major, but outside of that, you're right. The last Pro League LAN that they qualified for was Sao Paulo at the tail end of 2017, so it's been quite a drought for fans of the Ninjas. Well, they were able to win that last round in heroic fashion, with Pino making a beautiful shot onto Mav. It'll now be a little bit more difficult for Nip on defense. Upside down repel from Astro might go unnoticed by the Alibi as the ACOG of that F2 tries to find its target inside of Piano. Pick one, because there's a couple different clones, one of which has been taken off the board. Really unsure how Astro didn't die there to that fight against Psycho, as it should have been a kill for Psycho, especially with where he was aiming. You'll see the silhouette of his teammate through the wall get down and finished off as both of Mav's frag grenades find their target onto Kamikaze. It's the door being broken open now as Mozzie is not too far off of where Psycho was playing inside of Cigar. There's Piano now is where Mozzie's going to lie. You've still got the Alibi of Psycho watching the window as Pino could have potentially shot that exothermic charge. Psycho will find Ion though and continue to move around before being immediately traded off. But Mozzie's there to gun down Yuna, so both teams will trade on the kill that was originally started from Psycho.
A 3v3 right now. Mozzie, of course, on the Vigil. Something that not everybody realizes so far is that had there been a Lion, the Vigil just completely walks on through it. The E1D gets completely deceived by the ERC. In this case, none of that. Mav will find a second kill. Pino eliminated for NIP. A big advantage for FaZe as the last two alive. Sure, the Vigil, but the Castle is not really an operator that you're usually relying on to win you the round, especially one where you're playing up close and personal by the stairs. Now he's left alone. Astro takes a tiny bit of damage to eliminate his opponent, leaving Julio alive. Go for the pre-fire. He finds actually one kill. Goes in for the flick for the last two, and just manages to graze Astro with an extra bit of damage, but he's down to 30 HP on his own. Julio staying on the site. Nomad pushing around the side of the wall with a 44 mag, and Cameraman will find the kill. FaZe Clan will win their attacking side. Pretty effective execution there from FaZe Clan, I have to say. When you saw it in the beginning how the flurry of kills really happened in the first minute of the round, you weren't really expecting it to get so one-sided by the end of it. And really, it isn't just down to taking out opponents, it's down to taking out operators that really matter in the late game.
We saw the rare exception here from teams on defense, which is stacking so heavy inside a Piano. You know, you noted that Ninjas in Pyjamas, or FaZe Clan rather, on defense, we're not really putting any effort to try and hold Piano. And when we saw at the old Kafe as much as we used to, there were very few times when teams would actually defend Piano. It would be a foregone conclusion that the attackers will take it. You don't need to worry about wasting through their utility or their gadgets. Just set yourself up to possibly play from below if you're a Valkyrie, a Pulse, or a Mute, and then keep the rest of the bodies over on Cocktail. In this case, it was an innovative strategy from Nip, who used a Castle and Hall of Mirrors strategy with the Alibi, where you just put down all the clones in one area, and then you try to distract and maybe catch somebody on the attackers, shooting into a clone, and then having them pause as they're revealed for a period of time. In this instance, for Nip, it was a pretty good gambit, but it didn't end up going much farther than that. Or a pretty good gamble, didn't end up going much farther than that, and FaZe were just able to outmuscle them. Once they cleared Piano, they kept walking in, and you don't particularly want a 50 HP Castle in a clutch or kick scenario for your team. Even though it is Julio, and he tends to be one of the most consistent players when it comes to 1vXs in all of Pro League. An admirable effort from Nip, but I think if we see them go back upstairs to Cocktail, they're not going to stack up two bodies inside a Piano. I don't think they're going to bring that much utility because you have two operators almost solely dedicated to holding that down. You had Mozzie playing in there along with Psycho on the Alibi, so Alibi and Vigil with the Castle Barricade. Maybe a bit too much for what you got. And while FaZe were able to get out of that situation, shorter on time than I think they wanted, I would expect to see Nip possibly make some changes. And, well, on this round, Pino's up top, and he's going to catch Astro completely off guard. Keep in mind how good of a player Astro is, and also realize that that's Twitch, probably the best gun on attack in the F2, that will not be in play for the 2 minutes that are remaining in this round.
An operator that Astro played pretty consistently. For a long time, he was like the only one that ever played Twitch in all of the 3 regions of EU, NA, and Latin America. So it's now odd to see how silent he has been throughout this matchup. But the rest of FaZe have definitely been playing up. So you don't really always have the flexibility to do these sorts of things. Now, Mozzie has his ADSs close to him, protecting him and his smoke. That's a double up on the bakery as a kill is found by the Zofia. Any utility to burn out the ADS would be fantastic, but you do expose yourself. So you need a drone, you need information, and there we are. Here's the flashbangs that are being thrown into the back. Smoke will be popped, and it's actually the last one at 1:18. So Kamikaze is going to have his work cut out for him as the round progresses.
It's a similar setup that Empire actually utilized on Kitchen downstairs, which is they had Joystick playing behind the counter with a couple ADSs trying to buy some time and, you know, burn some utility and some throwables, grenades, etc. Because of this, you also had a smoke, but as I said, Kamikaze has taken a bit of HP away from a couple different members, but hasn't really been all that effective outside of that. Cameraman gets Pino, Kamikaze re-engages, and it's a bit of a Kamikaze mission as he doesn't get anything for it. He's also very low on HP, so once again, you could be putting Julio in a position to try to keep this round together. Fadeaway shot from Mozzie as he's going to find 2 on a map, but there's Ion. It's going to take 1 bullet to down him. And you've got Ion and Yuna looking to stretch the lead of FaZe. Once again, Julio, the last man standing for his team. He's not going to go too far as you hear the pitter-patter of the suppressed thermites. 5.56. That is a interesting choice.
That's a classic Yuna move.
Don't really hear it all that often, and the castle's not going to be able to make it back into sight as he tries to cross through the safety of his castle barricade phase. So far, perfect on attack.
I don't want to be pedantic, but I think the whole point of the suppressor is not to be able to hear it at all. Or at least very slightly.
Right.
But again, I don't want to be pedantic, so no stress, no pressure, none of that, of course. As is tradition.
As is tradition.
Yes. As is tradition. It's a wonderful episode. So, Gridlock had a massive impact on the round. Not just, I believe, it still was cameraman that was playing the operator, but also the fact that the LMG was very much in his hands. You have so much potential damage output with the 249, and you're just shredding through people. You can kind of stay safe and knowing that your flank is not being contested. You have smokes for later on in the round. Flexibility of the shotgun and soft destruction, and the potential one-shot up close, and the massive speed of reload, at least between shells, of the secondary shotgun, the Shorty 12G. In general, huge play, but now we get to see the Mozzie. And we talked to Joystick after this map specifically to see what he thought of the Mozzie. Karjeka was playing the operator very specifically in their matchup in the very first playday. And he said, you know, a big thing is that we're able to catch them, and then one drone being caught in Pro League is massive for us, and we really can exploit it. And a couple nights ago, talking to Mr. Davide Bucci himself, aka Foxe, in this interview as well, he says, you know, sometimes we don't catch them, but even if we don't, we can at least deny the most common sides where the drones will be coming in because they're afraid of that markup that shows up on their screen.
Something that Kix touched on exactly in our broadcast the other day when we saw Kafe was that a Mute Mozzie combo on the narrow door frames and the drone holes of Kafe, when you couple it with the fact that it's a very vertical map, proves to be extraordinarily powerful.
Yes.
Far more powerful than on a lot of other maps. And a lot of that, like I said, ties into the verticality and how much due diligence the attackers need on figuring out that top floor. And you're right, and Foxe is right. The drone that Mozzie uses, the Pest launcher, isn't necessarily designed to take the gadgets or the drones from the attackers, but rather force them to go into areas where you are going to be prepared for it. Very similar to castle barricades. Be interesting to see how it shapes up here, as it is a second floor defense of the reading area, and you have the reading and dining hall sites, and well, you gotta take control of the third floor, and it's been done effectively, but it's taken 90 seconds, and Astro, who was the very first casualty of the previous round, is now sitting inside of Piano.
Okay, breaching charge has been put up here, but the bucket already opened up the side. So, okay, the walk-in will actually happen. Spit redundant use, but Kamikaze with a Nitro Cell on the back and will not connect. No damage done to his opponents. Now he's on his own. He's got a shotgun up close and personal, so he can definitely do the work. And Mozzie is close as well, actually. So close, he's literally on top of the bar. Nitro Cell has been used from below, but does not connect. And what a shot from Yuna. He gets it with, again, the suppressed 5.56. Ion, another one on a Kamikaze. The top floor has been very well cleared out. Still one more holding up close to the staircase, and Psycho will find one with the Valkyrie. That'll be all here. Actually, no. Only the pulse falls back. Psycho stays on the stairs. And he might be able to pounce on the buck as the round progresses.
He understands
oh, what a headshot! Astro! Sit down.
I think he understands his own abilities quite well, and he's going to play on white stairs for the time being. 20 seconds left. The pulse under fire on site. Pino will scamper off, scooting on over towards the reading site. Psycho, the difference maker now, as he might be able to catch another member of FaZe in unsuspecting position. The bullet chasers will give him away. Cameraman catches the cross onto Pino, and Psycho has 3 members of FaZe that he needs to find, and they'll find him first. FaZe Clan now moving to match point, guaranteeing themselves 1 point on the standings, which will vault them over top of NIP. But still, you've got Team 1 nipping at your heels, pardon the pun. FaZe have yet to be thwarted so far on attack, and it's a cocktail lounge defense, as NIP have tried 3 separate sites now and haven't really been able to find any success. They'll go back to where it all started on their very first defense in hopes of breaking that.
It's getting a bit too close for comfort for NIP. They haven't been able to find a single round so far on their second half. 3 rounds going the way of FaZe Clan. The 6th pick on to the Jaeger here for Pino. The Vigil being brought up by Mozzie. It does a lot of work, even historically, on Kafe, but FaZe have not, and this isn't a topic I want to address here, they haven't really needed much in the way of roam clear in terms of specific operators for that. Sure, you have the Gridlock, but he's an operator with the tracks, etc., that can run throughout the whole round. They're not, they're omnipresent point throughout all of it. However, when it comes to Jackal, when it comes to Lion and Dokkaebi, even though 2 of these have global abilities, you still kind of have to be active with the way that you use them. And they expire, and then their effect is done. Not the same with Gridlock. NIP now doubled down on their own play, understanding that FaZe are not bringing those tools and putting them on the table. So that's why you see them bringing both the Alibi and the Vigil. But the big question will be, are they going to add more of their firepower onto Piano itself? Or are they actually going to spread it out and have some more maybe around Cigar, which it seems like it might be the case with Kamikaze so far sitting in there. Psycho at 13 frags equal to Mav.
And Mav having 3 fewer deaths. And this is what I was touching on about the way that Mav has been played as just a general role on FaZe. The change was a huge effect to the way that Mav was able to put contributions up for his team, be they kills, be they leadership, etc. He's been almost freed by this, and adding Yuna has obviously provided some leadership as well for FaZe. Overall, the changes for FaZe are what really elevated them to, what, like I said, probably the best team in the entire region, and I think with the best success over the last little while. Now, I was wrong when I said that I didn't think that NIP was going to invest quite so heavily inside of Piano. They're doing the exact same strategy. The castle on the double doors leading in towards Cigar, the Hall of Mirrors strat from Alibi, and then, in addition to that, the Vigil playing there too. And the mute jammers that are positioned by the windows and the castle barricades, as well as the door frame leading from Red into Cigar, so far, are beating FaZe every step of the way. It's a tough set of circumstances for FaZe to now have to deal with. And they'll have to crack that nut in the remaining 90 seconds as we hit the halfway mark of a round that will be match point for FaZe. And every round from here on out will, in fact, be match point for FaZe. They've got 3 opportunities to put this together, and they're going to be battling from behind. As a C4 from Kamikaze will take out Ion. Psycho's there to take out Astro as FaZe don't happen to look inside of Piano the way that they did before. And 2 very fast kills against FaZe and for NIP might have just given Ninjas in Pyjamas enough of an advantage that will continue on as now Cameraman falls too.
Yuna barely on a thread of HP here on the Thermite. All alone in the red stairs. Mav, you can hear him firing off in the distance, but It is very much the distance so far. Kamikaze dispatches of Yuna. Now it leaves only the Buck of Mav alone. Player is very well known for his Buck antics, but he's got a whole team of ninjas on the other side, and I fear that that might be a bit too much for him to chew on. Nobody peeking the skylight, at least not directly so far. It will be a bit suicidal at this point, but Mav will stay on top and chuck out a grenade and have some fun, I guess, in the meantime. You'd assume that FaZe are talking about their issues and what they have done wrong in this round to try and fix in the next one, because NIP's win of this round is very convincing, which definitely puts FaZe on edge a bit, but having the Vigil, the Alibi, and the Mute working together so effectively is definitely something that might force FaZe to bring a different setup of operators for the next round.
Now, what bodes well for FaZe is the fact that you've got Kitchen, Reading, and Mining as 3 sites that now NIP needs to go to that they have not been successful on so far. Yeah, you know what? If you're FaZe Clan, you opened up Piano and Cigar very effectively. That first time, NIP doubled down on it. I was wrong. I assume that they probably would abandon that and maybe go with something a bit safer, but it works out well for NIP, and the second time is a charm. Don't need a third time because you're not going to defend Cocktail again, so NIP decides to go down to the kitchen area down below. And because of this, which is the 8th round, which was their second defense, we're going to see a very familiar rotation here from Ninjas in Pyjamas. I would imagine, given how lopsided that round ended up being, that we're going to see quite an aggressive play from NIP. Maybe an aggressive roam that is somewhere on that second floor designed to thwart the entry of FaZe and knock them back yet again. And if you take Yuna out of action, you take the only hard breacher from FaZe and you remove them from the equation. And attacking this kitchen site without a hard breacher is almost impossible for a lot of teams. At least what we've seen so far. You don't want a hard breacher to be the early pick ever for the attackers, but in this instance, it tends to be amplified. Now, one thing that will work well is that there is a rotate hole that was opened up there in the soft kitchen wall over by red stairs. So there will be a wall that usually you would see reinforced that the attackers have access to. But as we've seen time and time again from rotates, usually a defender will be watching it, so you enter at your own peril. It tends to be designed almost as a trap. And I would suspect that while it's not necessarily designed as a trap in this instance, it's likely used as a rotate to work alongside the roam that we're going to see from NIP if they control red stairs, and then where the castle barricades are, it can still have a second usage. And it does look like there's going to be one body playing on red stairs, and the rotate hole will be effective to be able to get them back as there's a cutoff from the front of Bakery over towards the VIP area, towards the red stairs by that castle barricade.
Yeah, at least so. Some people might call the small bakery or the the sitting area, the lounge area. So far, it's FaZe Clan really taking their time on the top floor. The thing with bakery is that, or with kitchen specifically, is that you can enter and plant pretty safely in many positions. However, it's the setup with so many rotation holes and castle barricades that you have to deal with that really wastes your time. That's why you see a lot of teams being even extra careful before they're offensive on this site. Now, Psycho has gone a bit further up the red stairs. And he can afford to do that here, knowing that his teammates are kind of holding down the bottom floor for him, so the angle is all close for. But FaZe continue to drone on in. The Zofia, in the meantime, has actually opened up one of those hatches, and I assume that it's the one that enters down into mining. Nothing to go so far. It's just really taking their time. Okay, FaZe finally descend on down to the second floor, and we might be seeing a move down the brown stairs, but still barely a skirmish at the beginning.
No, my read on NIP today is not as strong as it has been in the past because we don't see that aggressiveness that has been characteristic of the Ninjas for quite a long period of time. They're playing on the exterior parts of the map right now, just near the site, but they haven't really taken any engagements, as you said. Very slow, and the patience here. If FaZe loses this round, you gotta expect that the momentum shifts so strongly in favor of NIP that it's hard for FaZe to actually walk away with a victory outright. But they'll open things up by taking out Pino, who was playing off-site. He's playing over by the VIP area. And you have the soft wall here of Yuna opening it up, shooting the wall. interestingly enough.
I really want to know why this has been used, or if it was set to be used on the top side of the wall from the beginning, because you can stun anybody behind it. I mean, you don't have to worry about any mute or bandit, so I'm kind of surprised.
Now, that was one exothermic charge that was taken down. Yuna might have another, but no, he doesn't. He's dry. He's going to walk right in. See Cameraman taking out Psycho. The pitter-patter again as the smoke will stop Yuna in his tracks. But time might be the greatest adversary that you will have to see FaZe wrestle against. A 5v3, but they'll need to start finding kills in a hurry. 1 second left. Julio with 2. Diffuser, is it going down? No, it doesn't. Nip just simply winning it on time and an impressive hold with the patience of the ninjas, and FaZe just not being able to put 2 and 2 together when the time was working against them. Still match point for FaZe, but Nip have seized this momentum, seized that energy, and depending on where they go and depending on how they play it, they could fight for this draw and 1 point to keep them in lockstep with FaZe in the standings. It looks like we'll lock in the Reading and Fireplace Hall for the site of our defense and our attack in the very final round here between these two Latin America juggernauts.
Coming close and into the site like that, you're expecting someone to instantly go and plant. None of that. It was so weird to see because you're like, okay, you're starting to scream at your monitor at that point. Why are you not plant? Why are you not planting? And there was just none of that. Utility was used in the back. You heard the lifelines at least going off, but there's no follow-up. That's really the problem. You were safe. Kitchen is, once you're in there and you're in control of one half of it, it's very difficult for your opponents, especially when you have a man advantage, to kind of push you and fight against you and stop a plant. Which is why it's so surprising that the defense were able to pull it off with barely any manpower left on the site itself as well. You're facing a full roster pushing into you. So, kind of a missed opportunity here for FaZe Clan, if you ask me. And I'm not sure what was going on with their coordination. Now, the big change is bringing the Lion. I think FaZe Clan has kind of realized the situation that they're in, and unfortunate for them is that NIP have brought out the perfect counter, really, and it is that mute. So you're going to be able to sit on your mute jammers. There's going to be quite a few of them here to block off the Lion E1Ds, even if 3 of them are available. And a lot of people forget that Lion on his own with the E1D is not the be-all, end-all, wins everything kind of operator. You need drones on top of it to secure information and then follow up with a kill. What it does is it freezes you in place. But if you don't know where your opponents are, you can't do much. But between the Mute, Mozzie combo, it really gets hairy and reduces the overall effectiveness on Lion and the ability to turn information into an actual kill. And so a round 1.
Thing to watch for here is how quickly this third floor is lost from Nip if they lose it, or how quickly they can hold it. If you can rebuff 1 or 2 entries from FaZe on that third floor, especially if Psycho stays alive, you're in the driver's seat for the remainder of this round. You got 3 C4s potentially on the board if Kamikaze is running it, which he is. Julio could be running it as well because Mozzie has access to a C4, so potentially 4 C4s actually. And with the pulse down below, he's going to be able to call if anybody decides to drop over on the secondary hatch. Cardiac sensor up high enough to read that FaZe is going to be coming from this angle. But the first Lion will keep Pino in place. This is a very dangerous game for Ion, who could have been felled at any point to the Nitro Cell, but it forces Pino off. He knows that there's bodies right by him and tries to find the Lion, but won't be able to catch him by the tail.
Astro checking around here with his IQ. Maybe he can find the pulse. This is an older strategy, but it will work pretty much for any design of the map. Because you have the soft floor, you can very easily use the Nitro Cell alongside the pulse heartbeat sensor to clear out your opponents and know exactly where they are. Ion will find 1 kill, and oh no, he spots Kamikaze's shotgun around the corner. Nitro Cell has been used, and Kamikaze, another one connecting on Astro. A huge advantage here for NIP, but Kamikaze is lost, as well as his teammate Pino, and it turns into a 2v3 for the Ninjas. At 30 seconds left, there's not much time. The Valkyrie still has utility to use. That's the Nitro Cell. Julio having already used his on the Mozzie not long ago.
Psycho needs to fall off and get back towards the site to help out Julio, who could have ended up being the only person to stop the tide of FaZe crashing against the site. 10 seconds, and the biggest issues for FaZe is being able to get this plant down. The Lion of Cameraman not suspecting Julio's position, but nobody from Nip, the wiser right now. C4 goes out, he'll connect. Oh, and 2 for Nip. They'll tie it up, and both teams will walk away with a point apiece. Psycho, you cannot stop this man no matter what you do, no matter how hard you try. He's always a difference maker. And it'll be a draw here between these two teams who entered the day tied in points and will exit the day tied as well.
16 frags for Psycho at the end of the